I am so excited for this episode, the final episode of the year, because I always love listening to other people's year recaps. I listen to a lot of business podcasts and entrepreneur type podcasts, and they go into finances and all of that, which is not what we're doing today. This is a mental health podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put up some photos and clips throughout the episode of things that I did this year. So if you're watching, it'll be a little bit more visual of an episode. Just wanted to flag that in case you're listening and you want to see some clips and videos and things like that. I also have a vlog coming on my YouTube channel about a recent trip that I took that I'm going to talk about here soon. But before filming this episode, I looked at my year and I looked at the ups and downs of my year, and I'm really excited to talk about that with you today. I'm going to talk about mental health stuff for the first part of the episode and today's small step for those that are here for that. And then I'm going to dive into other aspects of my year in terms of travel and books that I read and work-related stuff and books that I wrote and all of that. If you are interested in that, you can stick around for that in the second half of the episode. So let's just dive straight into what 2022 looked like for me. This was a year of a lot of change for me. The biggest change being change of career path. I moved from a corporate job into pursuing my dream job, which is writing and pursuing my own business. So that was a huge change that took some time to get used to. And there were some times in the beginning where I didn't think I made a mistake, but was just getting acclimated to not having to report to anyone else, not having this structured day anymore. That took a little bit of time getting used to. I remember the first few weeks I was like, this is weird. I feel not as motivated to work. And I was actually a little bit worried that I wasn't going to get it back, but I did, don't worry. And the rest of the year was go, go, go. So it was a positive thing in that I was very happy with my decision and very, very happy with how this year went with my business. But also just getting used to that new structure was difficult. I had some lower moments this year when I quit my job being one of them, where I was feeling really low mentally and I was hoping that I would feel amazing and feel, yay, I'm finally pursuing my passion, but I just felt really sad about leaving my job. So that was a tough decision. And then moving forward into the year, pursuing my books, all of that, I had some amazing highs and amazing opportunities, getting a book deal for Changing with the Tides, which was republished in July, getting to record my own audiobook for that book, which was a huge step for me. I think I've talked about on this podcast before how I really didn't like my voice for a lot of years. I never used my voice enough. And whenever I started reading my poems on TikTok, I started liking the sound of my voice more and getting compliments about my voice, which was really nice and helpful. And so getting to record a whole audiobook is something that I never thought that I would do, which was an amazing experience. And then I also finalized my new book, which is coming out in January with another publisher, Central Avenue, which has been amazing to work on as well. A couple book releases or books in the works happened this year, which was very busy but very fun. And then I had a couple experiences with, I don't want to say failure, but just things not going as planned or things not going as I wanted them to go, which took time to process, time to realize that, again, it wasn't a failure, but it was something that I needed to process in my mind and then take time to accept that it didn't work out, and then take time to learn from those experiences, understand what went wrong, and use that for future learnings in my business and in my life. So there were some harder moments where I felt like a failure or was really disappointed in myself, really hard on myself, worried that I was disappointing other people, which tended to be a theme this year for me and something that I want to work on in the next year. So that's kind of a recap of how my mental health was this year. And I think the biggest thing reflecting on this year was lack of rest. I can probably count on one hand the number of days I took off this year. A day that I didn't work at all. That's not good. That's not what I want. I'm not going to set strict goals on myself for 2023, but it's definitely something that I'm reflecting on and trying to have plans to make that not the case in the new year. I have a really hard time saying no, whether it's people coming to me for work, for poetry editing work, which I'll talk about later on in the episode when I recap my business year. And I love working with authors. Like that's something that I started doing at the end of 2021, and it's been so rewarding and fulfilling that I just can't say no, and that's okay. I'm not like unhappy because I think I accomplished a lot this year and I also helped a lot of people this year, but I do want more rest in 2023, and that's going to involve being more protective of my schedule and my time and pursuing, you know, the writing and all of that I want to do in my free time. So that's something that I'm also working on. That's a little recap of my mental health this year and how that went. I had personal changes relationship wise. I moved in with my partner, which wasn't a huge adjustment. We enjoy it a lot. I'm happy about that. And then we got engaged recently a few weeks ago. So now I have like that to think about for 2023 and making, of course, time for planning that and, you know, what that future looks like. Yeah, I'm really excited about everything that's coming in 2023 and wanted to end this section of the episode. There's more to come, but end this section of the episode with a little reading from my book. One that's very fitting for starting a new year, and then give you a small step to take with you in the new year. As you may know, if you listen to past episodes, I give you a small step to take with you on your self-love journey every single week. I'm going to read to you page 78 from my book, Changing with the Tides, and it is called To New Beginnings. You can close this chapter of your life and never look back. Or you can flip through the pages, revisit old memories, reflect on how different you once were. That's the magic of writing your own story. You'll meet new characters, travel to new places, face new obstacles, and the best part, deciding how to overcome them and then realizing you can. And I feel like that just sums up my year. I wrote this like 3 or 4 years ago, but as I'm just reading through this right now, this is exactly what I just did. I reflected on how different I was at the beginning of the year to now. I revisited old memories. I thought about the travel that I did, the obstacles that I faced, how I overcame them. And so that's what I would like you to do this week or as you start the new year. You don't have to set New Year's resolutions. You don't have to set goals for yourself, but just reflect. Think about or journal about the accomplishments that you had this year, the learnings that you had this year, new people that you met this year, the obstacles that you faced, and how you overcame them. You are still here. You are still standing strong, and you have another year to do amazing, amazing things. So just think about that. Spend some time thinking about that and how incredible you are. And I'm going to jump into my recap in terms of travel and books I read and business stuff. I'm so excited. I love listening to episodes like this and just hearing what other people do throughout their year. So I'm gonna start with travel because I love travel and I took some amazing trips this year. Starting out in February, I visited with my partner. We went to Florida to visit my parents for just a few days. It was a shorter trip, but I live in a place where we get winter, it's cold, it's snowy, so a few days of sunshine was wonderful. And then for a half birthday, half anniversary trip, we went to Niagara Falls, my partner and I, and that was a really, really fun trip. One of my favorites of the year. We spent like 4 or 5 days in Niagara Falls, and then we went to Toronto as well just for a day and had some really great food. It was a really cute, I love like touristy stuff, so I know a lot of people don't love the main area in Niagara Falls where it's very touristy, but we loved it and did all the tourist things, and just seeing Niagara Falls was really, really pretty. We went to the Canadian side, and that was just a really, really fun trip. And then we did a couple wedding trips. So we went to Puerto Rico for a friend's wedding, which was beautiful. Probably my favorite trip of the year. Second favorite, I should say. It's my second favorite trip of the year. We went in August, so it was incredible weather, really warm, definitely a little sunburn happening, but the wedding was beautiful. We went to the Alyanca Rainforest, which really inspired some poems for me. I dove off some cliffs and swung on ropes, and we swam in the Caribbean side, which it was my first time experiencing like walking into ocean water and having it be warm. I'm used to the freezing cold Atlantic Ocean, so that was a beautiful trip. Great food, great people, so nice. Like I just loved the culture there. I also left a copy of my book Changing with the Tides at this free street bookstore in San Juan, and one of my readers messaged me at like 3 a.m. the next day and was like, I found it, and they went with their sister at like 3 a.m. to find it, which was so cool. So I loved that. And then I went to New York for my brother's wedding, which was really, really fun for a weekend, and my partner and I explored New York City for a day there. And then we, did a couple home trips to both of our hometowns, and then also went to Stockholm, Sweden, in early December. So I was there for a week. That is where we got engaged, and we explored a lot. I went to a beautiful, beautiful library there. I'm putting pictures up on the screen, and it was just beautiful. I have a whole vlog on this trip coming out soon, so there's much more to see and explore in that vlog, so stay tuned for that. But it was a really, really fun trip and a wonderful way to end the year. I also did my very first in-person poetry reading in September, which was another out-of-comfort-zone experience for me, reading my poems in front of a group of people in person. It went really well. I had a booth with my books and some prints that I had made, and got to connect with some other amazing local poets, so that was a really fun experience as well. Moving on to books. So if you know me, you know I love books. I love writing. I write books as my job. So I did a lot of writing and a lot of reading this year. I definitely want to do more writing in the new year in 2023. But I host a online poetry community called the Poetry Club, and this year I hosted 10 virtual writing sessions with them, and so wrote a lot of poems during those sessions. And then I also hosted one workshop and had 11 other guest hosts lead workshops for us, where I also did writing in those as well. So lots of writing, lots of amazing virtual meetups with the poetry community. And we have around 95, 97 members in that poetry club. Our next workshop is going to be mid-January, and I'm going to be hosting that one on writing and putting together a poetry collection. So if you are interested in joining us, I will put the details about joining us in the description. But it's a wonderful group and a great way to get some writing in. I also did a lot of poetry editing. So I edit poetry manuscripts. That's the only type of editing that I do at the moment. But I edited over 20 manuscripts this year for other poets for a total of 1,895 pages of poetry edited. Whoa, that's a lot to me. Wild, 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 wild. So wonderful to work with different poets. That doesn't even include the multiple rounds of editing that we did. So it's actually more than that. That's just like the first round editing. So fun. I enjoyed a lot and plan to continue doing that in 2023. So reach out to me if you're looking to have a poetry book edited. I tend to fill up a few weeks in advance. In terms of books written, I am working on a new collection. I have probably a third of it done. So that's been something that I've been tinkering away at throughout the year. And then I am also in a fiction writing group that I have been really bad about attending toward the end of the year. But I started a fiction book this year. I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day. I have like 20 or 30 pages of it done, but it's just been a fun kind of creative outlet for me to do throughout this year. And then in terms of books read, I read 25 books this year, not including the books that I edited and read very, very thoroughly in order to edit them. So I read 25 books this year. My goal was 22 just for the year 2022. So I'm happy with that, happy that I made that goal. I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself to read too much. There was a few months where I set the goal of reading every single day, and I did that for the most part. But a lot of poetry I read this year, and then I also read a decent amount of nonfiction books on self-care and self-love and mindfulness and things like that. But I also read a lot of beautiful poetry, and I'm excited to continue doing that in 2023. Another thing that was a goal of mine this year was to get on more interviews or more media outlets. So I was interviewed on 14 podcasts this year and did 2 written interviews on a couple different websites. One of them being Authority Magazine. That was really fun. I, of course, also started a podcast, this podcast that you're listening to, and I've been doing that every single week since July. So lots of podcast experience for me this year, and thank you all for listening to the episodes. It means the world to me. Definitely, of course, plan on continuing this podcast and having more guests as well in the new year. A variety of guests other than poets who I love and adore, but just to kind of expanding that a little bit and hearing from different point of views, all different industries and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. I created 6 different guides and or kind of online products. So I created 5 guides for helping other authors with marketing and had over 1,388 authors that had grabbed a guide or worked with me one-to-one throughout the year, which is incredible. And then the 6th product/course was a self-love challenge that I created celebrated with an app that came out, a new wellness app, and that launched in, was that November, I think? That was really fun and went really well. We're talking about maybe making that a course that would be available to purchase throughout 2023. So if you're interested in that, it will probably be available in 2023 to do on your own as a self-love challenge to kick off the new year. And then finally, new things that I tried this year. I already mentioned the audiobook. That was really, really fun and a big step for me. I was definitely nervous, but it ended up being an amazing experience. And then as a fun kind of new thing that I tried, my partner and I started taking dance lessons. I did dance all growing up, but I've never done like couples dancing lessons. So that's been really fun to do together. Otherwise, I had, of course, my book launch in July, and then I have another one coming up in just a few weeks from this episode being out. Girl Made of Glass comes out January 24th. So lots to do in January, but I'm super excited for the new year and just seeing what all I accomplish in 2023, and of course expecting some more obstacles, some more challenges, some more opportunities to learn, and definitely lots of amazing books coming out in 2023, travel plan for 2023. So I'm looking forward to another great year, and I want to thank you for being around this year, for supporting the podcast, for following along on social media or reading my books, or however you've supported me. It truly means the world to me, and I just want to thank you for being here. I would love to hear an accomplishment or a reflection on 2022 from you, whether you leave it in the comments on YouTube or screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. So a happy and healthy new year to you. A year full of self-love and compassion and kindness is what I'm wishing for you in 2023. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next week.